This is Danny Flexon here for SecondsOut. Delighted to be joined by a good friend and top super middleweight, John Ryder. John's been blanking me for a couple of weeks. So I don't know why I said good friend, but I assumed it because a fight was in the works, but maybe that was just unrelated.
Just trying to let you know my true feelings, wasn't I?
Yeah.
Don't bother me unless it's business. But no, I think we was all in the middle of stuff and whatnot, and obviously I was irons in a few fires and whatnot. But we got this over the line and got it sorted, and it's good to show that both teams can come together and work together and get a fight arranged.
Yeah, I mean they couldn't do it with Joshua Fury, or Fury Joshua, but they've managed to do it for this one. You against Zach Parker, two top-rated available fighters for the WBO for their interim championship. But it takes on a bit of extra significance because I believe with the WBO specifically, if you're an interim champion and the full champion vacates, you don't have to fight for it. You just get elevated straight away. So in a sense, this could be a world title fight for you.
Yeah, I mean, it's a strange one, and it would be a strange way to win a world title. But listen, you take everything you can in this sport. So first and foremost is take care of business on the 26th against Zach Parker, undefeated. And then you go from there. You know what I mean? It's obviously going to put you in a great position for the winner. Who knows? I mean, Canelo's obviously got everything tied up, but looks like he's out for the foreseeable with an injury. So, I mean, who really knows what's going to happen? And if any of the belts fragment and something becomes available, could well have been for a world title this fight.
Yeah, and I mean, the WBO rules seem to be different from the other bodies in that they do just elevate the interim champion. Joe Joyce's team have talked about that happening potentially with him. Happened with Paul Butler not too long ago at bantamweight as well. So, yeah, all to play for. You talked about the teams working together. Just tell us how this fight came about.
Well, I think it was mentioned a few months ago, and I mean, we were still trying to work on the Munguia fight, which ended up falling through, and then oh, mate, the electric just cut out.
They get our purse quicker.
The cost of living crisis is in full effect.
Brilliant.
I'll get the candles out in a minute.
All right, yeah.
That's it. Here we are. We're back and running.
Flick the switch, yeah.
You get the generator on.
Are you trying to get a bit of extra money out of the promoters? That's what this is all about.
I'm trying to, please, I need your help. Yeah, we need your money. Got Bob Geldof an advert.
Your best Bob Geldof impression, was it?
Brilliant. That's it, yeah.
Yeah, love it. That'll go over the heads of a lot of people watching this, but it's fine. I got it, and that's what matters. So yeah, you were telling us about how the fight got made. You were looking at Munguia, and then how did it get from there to Zach?
Yeah, and then they'd come on for the Parker fight. I think obviously it'd gone quiet with Andrade, and then it just we looked at Munguia and thought it was a great fight, and was forcing him with that, and then that fell through, and then fortunately they come back on for the Parker fight, and then Munguia was back on, and Berlanga was chirping up, and I mean, got to a point where I thought you chase 3 chickens, you end up catching none, and
that's saying, is it?
Well, I don't know. I think, yeah,
it is now.
Sounds right. Sounds right in my head, but yeah, I think then we got into good talks and whatnot, and it's progressed, and here we are.
So Munguia, would that have been at super middleweight?
Yeah, I think they was doing it like they wanted to do it at like 11-10 or something and whatnot. But I think, listen, this fight against Zach Parker, it's a 168 limit for a title, and listen, go and beat Zach Parker. That Munguia fight's still there for me. Do you know what I mean? But on my terms. So happy days. I mean, I think we're taking the right fight at the right time. And listen, nothing better than an all British showdown.
We don't see a lot of these kind of matchroom Queensbury working together to make big fights. Obviously, on a Queensbury show. What made this one different? Why has this been able to get over the line?
I think we're just 2 willing participants, and I think the fight makes sense. I think for myself, there was obviously the lure of the Munguia fight was good, but just wasn't happening. And obviously, he had the great fight with Andrade lined up, which would have been a hell of a fight, but that obviously fell through. So, I mean, as luck would have it, we're both the same weight, both from the same country, and both willing to put it all on the line.
How do you feel about going on to another promoter's show? You've been with Matchroom a long time, but then you would argue you lost the Callum Smith fight where maybe you shouldn't, and that was on your own promoter's show. So maybe there isn't so much to worry about. How do you think about that stuff?
Listen, I think at the end of the day, if you're good enough, you'll win. If you're not, you won't. And I mean, I've been on ITV shows with Richard Poxon. I've been on a Salon show last year. I think it was a co-promotion with Matchroom, in fairness, but in Austria. So listen, I'm happy to go on shows. I boxed Bilal Akwe on a Golden Boy show in 2019. So listen, there's nothing wrong with travelling about and being on the B side.
Was Billy Joe on a Warren show?
That was 2000 and what was that 2013? That was on the Warren show. Warren won the purse bids. Well, Matchroom originally won, but the paperwork got filled out slightly incorrectly, and Frank won it again.
Okay, fair enough. The king of purse bids. Although this one didn't go to purse bids, of course, you came to an agreement, which is great. What do you make of Zach Parker? You said obviously he's undefeated. He's a bit younger than you, probably a bit fresher, it's fair to say, although has fought no one anywhere near your caliber.
I think now everyone is a bit younger and a bit fresher than me, aren't they? But
I didn't want to say
it. Listen, he's not put a foot wrong yet. I mean, listen, he's done what's asked of him so far. He's had good wins of late. Not tons of activity of late. I think he boxed last November, over a year ago. So was that the Vaughan Alexander fight?
No, Marcus Morrison was the last one.
Oh, Marcus Morrison. Sorry, I mean
it was November.
The Vaughan Alexander fight. Listen, Marcus Morrison's he's not a super middleweight, in fairness, but take nothing away from him. You've got to put out these statements, and he did. And but the Vaughan Alexander fight was a good win. I watched Vaughan Alexander fight Anthony Sims Jr. in LA years ago, and he gave a good account of himself. So for him to go out and do what he did is a very good win.
But it's a huge step up for him. I mean, you probably wouldn't say, and I'll ask you, but that he's the best you fought because of some of the people you've been in with. He would have to, if he's being honest, say that you are the best that he's been in with on paper.
I have thought about this question, and I thought about how I'd slip up saying it, so I'll say it slowly. He's probably not the best I've boxed, but he's the best that's in front of me to come. So I'll give him the respect he deserves. And listen, I have probably fought better and more gifted boxers, more technically gifted, but he's what's in front of me now, and that's what's most important, is to be fully focused on him and what he brings to the table.
And what does he bring to the table in your view? What are his kind of key attributes?
Well, listen, he's strong. He doesn't mix it up too much. He's to the point, and he's in your face. He switches it up from the orthodox to southpaw, and he does well. Look, he's powerful. He's dispatched of a lot of opponents, but I believe I've been in there with a lot now, and I've seen different shapes, different styles, and I mean, some of them I've dealt with and some of them I've not. But there's not many things in the sport that I haven't seen now. So on the 26th of November, I'm fully prepared what he's going to bring, and fully prepared to give some back.
Given the stakes of the fight, the fact that it didn't go to purse bids, I have to ask. I don't have to ask. I hate when people say that. I want to ask, and I will ask: is there a rematch clause in the contract?
There's not. No.
That's a result.
That's a touch, isn't it?
Well done. Well done, Charlie and Tony.
No, well, I've got the contract. I'll have to check it over again. But
you're not sure that.
No rematch clause. But listen, it's one of the things. We're tied up in those, and I mean, you've got the chance to win the vacant WBO Interim, and then potential to kick on a big fight. So, do you really want to be going back over old ground if you feel like you won well and won convincingly to go over a fight that could well go the same way again? And this is it's another 6 months wasted.
If you come through this fight with the win,
I come through?
You can say that. I'm not allowed to. I have to be impartial. But yeah, after this fight, if you had to choose between a guaranteed world title, so Canelo vacates, or a fight with Canelo, which you could win, but you could lose, you don't know, which would you choose?
Listen, we all want to fight Canelo, don't we? We all want that payday.
I don't.
Listen, jokes aside, no, listen, it's one of those things. I mean, if you get upgraded to full champion without fighting for it, you never get the credit you fully deserve. You always been gifted that title. So listen, I would always rather fight a champion for the title or fight for a vacant title. But listen, if it's handed to you, you're going to take it. But yeah, I mean, I'd love to step up and test myself against the best in the sport. And listen, on recent form, Canelo's not looked his glittering self and showing signs of, I don't know if decline or tiredness or aging or whatnot, but he's not looked at his best, and he's suffered a big defeat against Bivol, stepping up to 175. He's come back down to 168, and he's beaten Golovkin, who was, I mean, well past his best, but still a thunderous puncher and still a dangerous opponent. But I mean, it wasn't the Canelo we've seen of late dispatching the people, was it?
True. You've had, going into this one, 3 fights in the last 3 years. Are there kind of positives and negatives to that, in that, you know, you want to be more active, but maybe it's freshened you up a bit as well? Obviously, not all 3 went the distance, so there's that.
Yeah, I mean, in normal times, you'd think that's a terrible run of form. Do you know what I mean? 3 fights in 3 years. But bearing in mind that we had 2 years out due to COVID, I was still lucky enough to box twice in Miami and Austria. So, I mean, yeah, this will be my busiest year since 2019 with 2 fights. So, yeah, I mean, starters with me to go on. I mean, after 2019, I really wanted to kick on and get big fights and whatnot, and it wasn't to be. But I feel like we started this year right, and we started off with a high, and it looks to finish on another high.
And have you, what sort of stage are you at now in your training? Because although we've only just heard about this fight being confirmed, presumably you've known for a bit longer.
Yeah, I mean, I've been training in a way. We had the idea of Munguia fight for October 29th originally, so we was working towards that, not fully on the gas, but luckily enough. But yeah, we've had the idea of this fight for a while now, and there was toying with the idea of the 5th of November, then it was the 26th or the 3rd of December. So yeah, we've known for a while now, so we've been training hard.
Presumably, looking at the pair of you, you might be a little bit more comfortable at the weight than Zach.
I don't know. I've not really seen. I've not stood next to Zach to see how big he is and how wide he is and whatnot, how big his legs are and what side he dresses to. But it's just one of those things. Like, listen, yeah. I mean, especially for your mob, but you know, it's yeah, it's one of those things, isn't it? We're 2 men. We're going to get in there. Who really cares who makes weight easier than the other? We're going to get in there and we're going to try and take each other's heads off.
That's what everyone wants to hear who's planning to watch the fight, I'm sure.